We all know when it comes to the debates in question period or in parliament that Justin Trudeau gets slapped around very often, almost if not all the time, by Pierre Poilievre or even other conservative MPs, and sometimes even Jagmeet. I hate to say it, but sometimes he gets slapped around a little bit. Today, we're taking a look at Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Welcome back to a new video. Before we get into it, I want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. We are a pinch away from 100,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. And maybe you've heard me say this in previous videos, maybe not, but just in case that you haven't, once we hit over 100,000 subscribers, I will be personally going to Ottawa to watch one of the next live question periods. So if that's any incentive at all, then I would really appreciate your guys' support. In this first clip, we have Pierre Poilievre stacked up against Justin Trudeau, where he actually not only just destroys Trudeau, but destroys the CBC, the government-funded media, and tells them to fact-check it. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy this clip as much as I do.
Canada should be the cheapest place in the world, Mr. Speaker, because, of course, we have more land per person than all but 4 countries on the planet. In other words, we have lots of space, just not a lot of homes. In fact, we have fewer homes per capita than all other G7 countries, even though we have by far the most land to build on. And in fact, we have fewer homes per capita today than we did 8 years ago when this Prime Minister took office promising more homes and more affordable homes. And if you want the best all-in-one measurement of this Prime Minister's performance on housing, look at the OECD, which compared housing costs to income starting in 2015 to present among all 37 OECD countries. So how have the ratio of home prices to family incomes grown in Canada relative to the other 36 OECD countries? We are the second worst. In other words, housing costs outgrew incomes in Canada at a faster pace than in all but one of the other 36 OECD countries. In other words, this is a new problem that occurred after this Prime Minister took office, and it is a problem that is unique to Canada. He cannot blame some prior government, and he cannot blame other countries, because he is worse than Canada has ever been, and worse than almost anywhere else in the world. This is a made-in-Canada problem, unique to this Prime Minister. Why? Because he has spent the last 8 years building bureaucracy rather than building homes. He brags that he has the most expensive housing programs. He complains that when I was housing minister, my programs did not cost as much. And he is absolutely right about that. I had far more affordable housing programs. In fact, there were far few billions in my housing programs than there are in his programs. But we don't measure the success by how expensive we can be. We measure success by how affordable we can be. He even made up a fact. He looked at a CBC headline, which is always a dangerous thing to do. And he said that when I was minister that we only built 99 homes with $300 million. I said, what the heck is he talking about? I have a mind like a steel trap. I would have remembered if I'd announced a $300 million housing program. So I checked into it. But here's what actually happened. First of all, the program was created in 2008, a half decade before I even became the minister. Second of all, it didn't spend any money. The program was designed to encourage private home ownership by First Nations. It invested capital of $300 million and didn't spend a penny because the money was invested commercially. It actually grew to $380 million, and it wasn't 99 homes. There were 7,000 homes built, purchased, or renovated for First Nations people. So it didn't cost any money. It made a profit, and it built, renovated, and bought 7,000 homes. Oh, and by the way, the entire thing is run by First Nations themselves. No wonder the Liberals don't like any of that, Mr. Speaker. But forget the facts. If I had to deal with their body of facts in litigating the housing file, boy, I don't know what I would do. You might have to hallucinate to come up with some other facts, too. I might even get desperate enough to read CBC headlines as well. But
Pierre is excellent. Pierre is very well versed. He knows exactly what to say at the right time, and even his witty comments. And speaking of witty comments, next up in line is actually Andrew Scheer. He's a bit of a, I don't want to say clown as in a derogatory sense, but he's a funny lad. He's very good at what would be deemed potentially as trolling other MPs. And that's what we kind of take a look at today. There's a point of order, and Andrew Scheer brings up the fact that somebody got caught hot micing saying F you, Pierre. So let's take a look at that clip.
Official Opposition House Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I rise to bring your attention and the attention of the Speaker to a very unfortunate incident that happened in question period yesterday. In response to the Leader of the Opposition's very measured, policy-oriented question, which I'll read right now to provide some context, Leader of the Opposition said, Mr. Speaker, the advice is to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. The Prime Minister is not worth the cost and not worth the crime. We now are paying $1 billion more in insurance premiums because he has led to a quadrupling of car thefts in Toronto. I have a common sense plan, which I rolled out today, to end house arrest and catch and release for career criminals and bring in 3 years of jail for 3 stolen cars. Will the government accept this common sense plan? As a very, end quote, very measured, very focused on actual policy. No personal attacks or insult contained in that question at all. The Minister of Justice, in his response, though, used an extremely unparliamentary word at the end of his response, which is not captured in Hansard, but it was captured on the audio. The Minister of Justice called the Leader of the Opposition, quote, an effing tool, end quote. Now, Madam Speaker, this comes from a government which loves to lecture everybody else about raising the level of debate, decorum, and civility. Once again, we see Liberal hypocrisy on full display. The Minister of Justice completely lost his cool, lost his temper, and hurled that offensive insult in this place in the Parliament, in the House of Commons. Madam Speaker, the Speaker himself has issued several rulings in the last few weeks where he has indicated he's going to try to address these types of comments that are made in the House. I asked the Speaker to examine the audio. It's clearly audible for all to hear. This offensive unparliamentary remark needs to be withdrawn, and the Minister needs to apologize.
I want to thank the Honourable Official Opposition House Leader for his intervention. We will certainly look at into this, and if need be, we'll come back to the House with the appropriate remedy.
There's a woke plague in Canada. There's, liberal has been kind of what Canada has been in essence for many, many years. We've been a pretty liberal, progressive country, but now liberalism seems to have gone off the rails, and it's become somewhat deemed as extremist. It's just so radically distant from reality that it's having significant impacts across the political spectrum here in Canada. And this next clip, we have Pierre, talking about how Vancouver is turning into a bit of a shit show. So I hope you enjoy this clip.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Policies of this Prime Minister and the NDP mayor in Vancouver led that city to more violence, to be on track for a record number of overdose deaths, and to make that city among the most overpriced housing markets on planet Earth. But voters in Vancouver have said enough. They have fired the NDP mayor and rejected the radical policies, and instead voted to remove the gatekeepers, to build more affordable homes, and bring in common sense laws to restore safe streets. Will the government in Ottawa finally get the message?
The Honourable Government House Leader. I appreciate the leader's interest in the mayoralty campaign in Vancouver, but here in Ottawa, I have a very specific question for the member of Cross. We have an opportunity in C31, and I ask you whether or not they're going to agree to provide dental care for Canadian children across this country. It's bad enough that they won't support it, Mr. Speaker. Why won't they just let this House, the majority of whom members support it, be there for Canadians, be there for children who need dental care?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Now, it is true that Vancouver already has its own provincial carbon tax, but now the costly coalition of the NDP and this Prime Minister want to force BC to triple, and triple that tax. We already have gas prices nearing $2 a litre in British Columbia. People have voted in the Vancouver elections to reject these inflationary policies. why won't this costly coalition get the message from British Columbia that people cannot afford these taxes and cancel their plan to triple the tax?
That is the end of the video, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about any of the clips that were played, please let me know down below. That's where we're going to end it. Before you leave, I would like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.